We first met at a function. I was standing outside of the facility and he was walking in and he turned around and he looked at me and I looked at him and our eyes like locked. And I was like, oh my gosh. I ended up talking to him and he ended up asking me to dance. And I'm like, wow, this guy is really nice. 7, 8 months later, moved very fast. He ended up moving in with me. And it was wonderful. I mean, it was great. It was like a really great little family. We didn't have any friends. We rarely went out to dinner. One incident happened at the restaurant where he thought the waiter stepped over his line to be nice to me. And things did not turn pretty in the car. He blamed me for leading the guy on. As we were driving down the road, he opened the door and tried to push me out as we were driving down the road. Over a long period of time, you know, he would knock me down a notch. And I would just think it was things in my head that were going off. He would make me think that I was a little crazy. I didn't realize what was going on at the time. There was little things like, who are you shaving your legs for? Or why do you have makeup on today? He didn't scream at the top of his lungs, you know, like you think it was somebody mad would be. He would say them in a normal tone, which was really creepy and really weird. When those times would come on, I would just be in fear of what was gonna come out, what was he gonna say, and what was he gonna do. The phone would ring and it would be my mom, and he would accuse me of talking to somebody else because I would be laughing and joking with her. But in between those, he would like say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that, and you know, try to, you know, get my forgiveness. And the first time it really happened, you know, it reminded me a little bit of, you know, what my mother went through. My father was screaming at my mother about something, and she was just standing there, you know, going like this. You could see she was talking, and she was trying to not to get, you know, angry or anything. And the next thing I know, I saw him go up and just wham, hit her right across the head, and down on the ground she went. And I just kind of thought maybe sometimes that's the way it happens. That's the way life is supposed to be. Before, it was just verbal. There was no physical. The first time was when he was mad about something and he didn't like apparently what I said, and he kept pointing and taking his finger and hitting me in the lip. And then next thing you know, my lip was bleeding. And then he took the tea towel off my shoulder and he started hitting me really hard with the tea towel. And I couldn't understand why he was doing this. He was just angry. That was the first incident that went, something ain't right. I had my youngest son in my arms, and he took me and he was taking my head and he was beating me against the wall. I was able to break loose and I called 911. The state police were kind of, I hate to say, they kind of brushed it off like it was my fault. I was really scared. I stayed asleep in the bed, acted like I was asleep because I just didn't want to have any confrontation with him. So when I thought he had left and gone down the driveway, so I was in the shower getting ready, and he came back. And he took the shower door and he swung it into me so many times and so hard that it had me pinned up against the wall, and the shower head was knocked completely out of the ceramic tile. He made me feel like it was my fault, and he made me feel like he was going to change, how things were going to be different, and how he was going to work so hard to make things different. And it didn't turn out to be that way. It turned out that it was a vicious cycle, and it happened again and again. Things would be good, and then they would be bad. They would be good, and then they would be bad. At times, times I felt like I was a mouse on one of those little circles that keep going around and around and around, and I couldn't get off. I got a little depressed, I must say. I lost a lot of weight. I weighed 100 and maybe 3 pounds at one time. It was depressing because he would tell me I was fat. As a survivor, the words hurt more than the physical part. And I couldn't understand. You know, I did everything I could. I have a nice house. I would cook dinner every night. The kids were all well taken care of. He didn't have to do anything when he came home. What was I doing wrong? And I couldn't talk to anybody about it. I couldn't tell my mother that I had made this bed and it was horrible. He took the electrical cord and took it and put it around the back of me and ripped layers and layers and layers of skin off the back of my legs. We're just bleeding profusely. And there are people there, and nobody is doing a thing. And the sheriff's department showed up. The gentleman that showed up said to me, "Who are you gonna call?" And I said, "What do you mean, who am I gonna call?" He says, "I'm not leaving here until you call somebody and you tell them what you're into." And I said, "I can't, I'm so embarrassed. I'm so embarrassed because I'm supposed to be a very, strong woman. My mother told me that, I need to be strong." And I said, I'm not strong. And he says, "That's why I need you to call somebody." He said, "I need you to talk to somebody." He stood there and he talked to me for a few minutes, and he asked me what had been going on, and how long had it been happening, and how did it get to this point, and wasn't I worried about my kids? And at that point I was breaking down, and I said, "I'm not protecting my children, I'm not doing the right thing." And he said, "It's okay, you're gonna get out of this." And about that time the phone rang, and it was my mother. And my mother, who was a very, very, very strong woman, said, "It's gonna be okay. I'm gonna get you out of this." And she says, "I'm gonna be there in 12 hours. She had already spoken to the sheriff's department. She had lined up exactly what needed to be done. And my mother drove me to the court and helped me file my first ex parte order. And that's what started the ball rolling. I just knew I couldn't go through it again. And I didn't know how to get out. There would be days that I would have highs and days that I would have lows. And he would call me constantly. He found out where I went to work, and he told me he was going to put a gun to my head and blow my brains out. If something bad happened to somebody I knew, I kind of was like, oh my gosh, did he have anything to do with it? He had me believing that he had that kind of control over my life. I thought he was going to kill me. I thought he was going to have me killed. We had this old computer, one of the first computers that came out, and it was in the kitchen, and I was up late that one night, and I powered up the computer, and I don't know what I was doing. I was fishing around, and I found a document, and the document was something that my oldest daughter wrote. And it was her feelings about what had gone on in the household, and how she wished I could find the strength to leave. And I knew at that point that it wasn't about me, it was about my kids. As much as I loved him, or thought that I loved him, as much as I thought that he would be better, or he could get better, or he could change, he wasn't gonna change. But she just wrote it so poetic and so soft, not to hurt me, but to say that, Mom, you're better than this. You can do better than this. And you know what? She was right. when your daughter, who is 16 years old and knows the difference between right and wrong, and that you've tried to teach her, how to live a good life and how to do things and how to accept responsibility for what you do, I realized that I had to accept responsibility for what was going on in my life. And at that point, I cut the cord. My name is Terry Smack, and I'm a domestic violence survivor. If you have not walked in their shoes, you have no idea. If you have somebody in your life that is starting to take control of it, maybe call you all the time, or tell you what to wear, or tell you not to be friends with someone, if they're trying to isolate you from your family, those are some of the very strong signs that happen, that they start to isolate you and then they can control your life. Do not let that happen. Run. Those kind of things are a sure sign of somebody who is going to abuse you in some way, whether it's verbal or physical. One is just as bad as the other. I know, I've lived through both, and they are both equally as painful. You might be embarrassed. Do not keep that inside of you. Do not let that person keep you isolated. In the end, you just want somebody to listen to you, and you want somebody to believe in you, and you want somebody to love you for what you are, and you don't want someone to judge you.